Hello TV fam and welcome ulit sa panibagong vlog. So I'm for sure nakita nyo ang ating thumbnail kaya napaklik kayo sa video na to. Ang topic natin for today, as you've already seen in the title, is that tingin nyo ba may hidden agenda si Donald Trump? More than what he's currently claiming. Yan ang alamin natin sa vlog na to. Napansin ko, itong vlog na to, ginawa natin, it's because, you know, we constantly follow Andrew Cheng from CBC. Very interesting yung mga facts na nire-relay niya with regards doon sa parang pinaka-punot dulo ng pagpataw ng tariff ni Trump sa mga bansa na nakapaligid sa kanya. So, umpisahan natin yan by watching this video.
When Donald Trump, at the very last minute, hit the big red pause button on tariffs against Canada and Mexico, there were two kinds of reactions.
Trump got rolled by both of these countries, and no one, least of all Trump, seems to have realized it.
Canada tried to hold out and just ended up begging for mercy. So far, every country that's been threatened bent the knee, and we haven't conceded a thing.
But what both angles miss is the underlying truth, which is this isn't over.
Donald Trump hasn't said anything is permanently gone.
Take Canada as an example. Yes, Donald Trump said this country is finally taking its border seriously. Yes, he nodded to its big billion-dollar concession, the appointment of a fentanyl czar, listing drug cartels as terrorists. He's very pleased. But then, at the very end, the tariffs announced on Saturday will be paused for a 30-day period to see whether or not a final economic deal with Canada can be structured. At which point, it's like, wait.
So, pause natin yung video. Doon sa video at sa parang pinaka-last statement na shinare sa atin ni Andrew Cheng. Even though, you know, there's two sides on this particular assessment. One is that from Canada's side, it seems like walang end. So far, yung hinihingi or mga hihingin pa ni Donald Trump sa Canada. The other side naman is saying, coming from the US side, si Trump is very good na pabend niya ng knee yung mga karatig bansa na nakapaligid sa US, and they are now abiding by what they're supposed to do, being the neighbor ng US. So, doon sa question na huli nating narinig, or not really a question, but a statement, ididiri lang naman siya for 30 days. It means there are more things na I think hihingin pa ni Trump para totally mawala itong tariff na to. So, tuloy natin itong panonood natin sa video.
Economic deal? What are we talking about? Wasn't this about fentanyl and illegal immigration and border security? But now the tariffs are explicitly contingent on more than just that?
So in 30 days, is he going to ask for more concessions on the economy? What happens in
What's the boss's three favorite words? You know what's it. Let's see what happens, right?
Then you remember, oh right, there are still all of Trump's other grievances.
We have a tremendous deficit with Canada.
We don't need them to make our cars. We don't need them to give us lumber.
We subsidize Canada by the tune of about $200 billion a year. And for what? They rely on our military.
I'd like to see Canada become our 51st state.
And that leaves us with the task of trying to disentangle each thing from the other. Because how does a country like Canada negotiate when the goalposts keep moving? And what does Trump even really want?
So, tingnan natin yung statement na yun na huling sinabi ni Andrew Cheng. Sinabi niya yung goalpost keeps on moving. Ibig sabihin, yung mga binigay na requirements ni Trump, umpisa pa lang yan. Kahit na sabihin mong na-address mo yung mga existing listahan na yan, hindi ibig sabihin, tapos na tayo at tatanggalin niya na yung tariff. Hindi pa. Dahil sabi niya nga, no, ididiri lang natin to, pero kailangan ma-address pa natin yung mga other requirements ng US para mapayaman pa nila yung bansa nila. So, pagpatuloy natin itong panonood natin sa video.
Canada's a very bad abuser also. Vast numbers of people to come in and fentanyl to come in.
Trump has repeated this claim that Canada bears some responsibility for the drug overdose epidemic that in any given year kills somewhere around 100,000 people in the US. Most of those deaths, 70%, are from fentanyl. But what Trump leaves out is that US customs agents last year only seized about 50 pounds of fentanyl at its northern border with Canada. Compare that to the more than 20,000 pounds, almost 10,000 kilos of fentanyl seized at the southern border with Mexico.
Can you just imagine bakit ginagawa ni Trump na rason ang fentanyl and yung mga drug cartels to drive na ma-achieve niya yung mga gusto niya at mag-bend ng knee yung mga karatig bansa na nasa paligid ng US. Na in reality, no, if titignan natin yung actual figures as presented earlier sa atin, really, ang confiscate so far at ang tumawid over the border is actually only 50 pounds of that illegal substance. Kung tutuusin, isang sako lang to sa isang buong taon na ginagawa mong reason to drive this agenda of yours na kailangan gawin nyo tong lahat ng mga bagay na to. Well, in reality, napakaliit lang naman talaga ng mga kaso regarding this. Ibig sabihin, Canada is able to actually protect the border from this type of substances. So, tuloy natin itong video.
Canada is responsible for less than 1% of the illegal fentanyl that is going into the United States, and it's responsible for less than 1% of the illegal migration into the United States.
Even the Canadian government seemed to question if Trump's tariffs on Canada were ever actually about border security at all.
It also is perhaps just an excuse, frankly, for the president to move forward with the tariffs. And if that's the case, then there is no satisfying the president.
And that's obviously a concern we have.
But what a focus on fentanyl does allow when the claim is about how it is endangering lives, threatening the fabric of society, about transnational cartels and a public health crisis and a national emergency.
So pause natin yung video, no? Kasi this is very interesting na actually, even though walang actual proof, no? Kahit nasabihin natin na based on our records, ito lang naman talaga yung tumatawid because we're really protecting our borders. Really, essentially, ginawa at ginamit niya tong angulo na to or perspective na to para madrive niya yung kanyang agenda. Why? It's because by driving and using this particular angle, he would be able and he would be granted special emergency powers. Na ngayon, ini-exercise niya na kaya niyang gawin tong mga bagay na to, disregarding years and years of negotiations para magkaroon ng free trade agreement. Bypass niya lahat na yon because he was able to attain emergency powers because of that particular problem. Yung angulo na may immigration at may drug problem, hence now, kailangan niyang gamitin at implement at exercise tong special emergency powers niya in order to implement and use that in negotiating with other countries. Very interesting. Tuloy natin tong video.
This is what gives Trump a free hand to impose tariffs at all, in spite of a decades-old series of free trade agreements promising to do no such thing.
You need an emergency that you can sell to the American people. A fentanyl crisis does that. It's simply been a means to an objective, which was to gain tariff authority.
So, what kind of economic deal might Trump be looking for? Well, there are two broad possibilities that get the most attention. Here's the first.
Canada, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We're not going to have that anymore.
This trade deficit is a nod to the trade imbalance between Canada and the U.S.
The United States has been ripped off by virtually every country in the world.
Trump is unhappy that Americans spend more on Canadian goods and services than Canadians spend on American goods and services. He believes this amounts to the U.S. subsidizing.
Subsidizing Canada to the tune of over $100 billion a year. By the tune of about $200 billion a year. Between $100 billion and $200 billion a year.
Trump doesn't really ever explain where he gets his numbers from. Like, it's hard to know if he thinks this is the size of the trade deficit or if this includes other things like U.S. military spending, from which Canada benefits.
Again, pause natin yung video, no? We've been hearing this tune of $200 billion. Well, in reality, pag kinompute mo lahat, products and services, ang difference lang naman talaga between Canada and US is over $32 billion. And really, yung imbalance na sinasabi niya, it's mainly because US has more buying capacity compared to other countries outside. So, kung iko-compare mo, no, let's just focus on between US and Canada. Kung ngayon pa lang makikita nyo yung foreign exchange rate between US dollar and $1 Canadian dollar, by this time na napaparoon nyo tong video na to, it's around 68 cents. So, can you just imagine, for every dollar that a US American spend, essentially, they could buy 2 items if Canada is selling a product for 50 cents. As an example, essentially, since malaki yung buying power mo, mas marami ka, in a sense, mabibili with your currency. So, exactly yung sinasabi natin kanina. Dahil nga, they're richer compared to all other countries outside of the US, di ba? Well, within the perimeter of the US. Kaya, ibig sabihin, the more buying power that you have, the more spending capabilities that you have to buy products and or services. More on that, panoorin natin at tuloy natin tong video natin.
The American trade deficit with Canada is about $40 billion US. And many experts say that's not a problem.
There's nothing inherently good or bad about a trade surplus or a deficit. The United States has had a trade deficit pretty much since the end of the Second World War. Why is that? Because they're richer than any other country. So they buy more stuff.
Pause natin yung video. Napag-usapan at nabanggit yung about sa army or capability ng Canada over US. It's very true, and I think itong move na ginawa ni Trump essentially brought certain light to things na dapat i-address ng Canada. Dahil I think isa to sa mga bagay na kailangang talagang pag-investan ng Canada to further ensure being self-sufficient. Kasi right now, maririnig mo, kaliwa kanan, everyone is saying that all the countries surrounding the US, even the NATO, they're heavily reliant doon sa armed forces ng US. So essentially, hindi ko alam kung it's because, innate lang talaga sa mga Canadian to be friendly. But in reality, kailangan mo rin magkaroon ng sariling armed forces to actually protect the people inside that particular country. Kasi ngayon nga, it seems like doon sa mga previous vlog, pinakita naman natin, or previous news na narinig nyo, may mga deficit talaga at pinaka-least na allocate na resources sa armed forces is because there are other things na mas pina-prioritize ng Canada na bigyan at i-fund currently. Tuloy natin yung video.
And consider this, the US's $40 billion deficit with Canada pales in comparison to its trade deficit with many other countries. Just look at how much more the US buys from China each year, for example. That gap, more than $250 billion.
Canada only accounts for about 5% of the overall U.S. deficit just in terms of traded goods. It's not even in the top 5 countries that have a larger surplus.
Can you just imagine, dyan sa graph na nakikita nyo, napakaliit lang natin compared sa ibang countries. Why now all of a sudden is nahahandpick yung Canada and Mexico? There must be a hidden agenda behind this decision. Alamin natin yan. Tuloy natin yung video.
This doesn't seem to explain why Trump came to the very brink of initiating a trade war against Canada. A more compelling reason might be what tariffs themselves can accomplish.
America will be a manufacturing nation once again.
Yes, maybe it's not about punishing Canadian industry so much as it is about giving an advantage to American industry. Because, let's say, I make chopsticks for left-handed people. In Canada, I have a whole factory that makes these left-handed chopsticks, and normally I sell these chopsticks to an American supplier for $1 a pair. But with a 25% tariff, that company now has to pay $1.25, and nobody really wants to pay that. So instead of potentially losing business, I might decide to move production to the US, get a whole factory full of Americans making left-handed chopsticks, which creates jobs and lowers prices, which means I can sell more. Win-win. Except...
So pause natin. Yan yung exact explanation na meron tayo on that vlog na sinasite ko sa inyo. Again, kung gusto nyo panood yung video nyo, click nyo lang yung link na nakikita nyo or yung thumbnail na nakikita nyo dyan sa screen nyo. Now, malalaman natin yung explanation and yung complexity actually nung gustong maating ni Trump. Hindi siya basta-basta at hindi siya yung parang one click lang na parang switch siya na pwede mong i-turn on at i-turn off. Tuloy natin yung video.
One thing to bear in mind is a majority of our imports are actually intermediate goods or inputs into production.
Yes, Canada sends things to the US, which it then uses to make things, because trying to do it all itself would be catastrophically expensive. And I'll give you an example with Canada's single largest export to the US, oil. Many American refineries aren't actually set up to process American oil. They've long been geared towards heavy crude, as opposed to lighter shale, which American drillers have found more recently. But you know who produces exactly the kind of heavy crude oil America needs? You guessed it. The US buys the majority, around 60% of the crude oil it imports, from Canada.
That commodity is not putting Americans out of work. It's putting Americans to work.
Putting Americans to work because there is an entire industry built around the importation of heavy Canadian crude and all the American workers who process and refine that oil into useful, saleable things. Gasoline, diesel, jet fuel. The US could retool all of its refineries and completely reinvent its supply chain, but that's expensive.
Oil and gas is probably one of the best examples of how something that is responsible for a huge trade deficit is actually creating tens of thousands of jobs in the U.S.
There are lots of other examples, too. Car manufacturing is spread out all across North America, even if a car itself might have its final assembly in the U.S. Steel and aluminum. Canada's a top supplier, and the U.S. then uses those materials in construction, aerospace, you name it.
While we might succeed in expanding production of some of the things that we would have imported, it's going to come at the expense of some of the things that we would have naturally been good at making. So I think it falls apart quite quickly.
There's one other thing I think is worth mentioning that could go some distance in explaining Trump's grand plan. And it was a moment during his inauguration, which maybe you heard and then wondered, what was that all about?
We will restore the name of a great president, William McKinley, to Mount McKinley, where it should be and where it belongs.
Renaming North America's highest mountain from Denali to McKinley takes on new significance when you understand that McKinley was the last Republican president to resist the idea of income tax.
We had no income tax. The income tax came in 1913.
Income tax, you know what it is. But let me just add, it is intended to force millionaires and billionaires to pay more to the government than everyone else. Trump wants to cut income taxes.
We will end all taxes on overtime. Are going to pass the largest tax cut in American history.
It's time for the United States to return to the system that made us richer and more powerful than ever before.
And the connection to tariffs? That's how you start to pay for those cuts.
Donald Trump, when he campaigned, he made a lot of big promises to Americans that are going to cost a lot of money. He sees tariffs as a way to fund some of his domestic agenda.
You know, historically, there was a period where tariffs were actually the single biggest source of revenue for the U.S. government. Trump is a fan of this period.
You know, the United States in 1870 to 1913, all tariffs, and that was the richest period in the history of the United States, relatively speaking.
But one modern-day obstacle is the simple fact that there are only so many things you can slap tariffs on. Total U.S. imports in 2023 stood at $3.83 trillion. So you could start taxing those goods. But taxable income in the U.S., that's well in excess of $20 trillion each year. And the government's take on that, both individual and corporate income taxes combined, they account for almost $3 trillion in federal revenue every year. That's a huge line item. Tariffs, at least in their current form, don't come anywhere close to matching that.
Pause natin yung video. This is very interesting and very key. Ngayon, as we unravel, unravel talaga. As we continue to investigate, get more additional information regarding sa parang pinaka-intent. Bakit ba ito ginagawa ni Trump? Ito na yung nag-shape sa reasoning behind that logic. At ang parang pinaka-main reason is because gusto niyang tanggalin ang income tax sa US, making the rich more richer and making the poor richer in a sense, but essentially making the rich more rich. Kung titignan mo yung logic at saka yung figures na pinapakita ni Andrew Cheng, kung i-compare mo yung $3 trillion compared to $20+ trillion, you would never be able to get to that figure by just taxing products that coming inside the US. Ang laki ng difference. Ang income tax is about 20 trillion. So, can you just imagine yung 20 trillion na value, dollar value na yon, saan nyo tingin kukunin ni Trump yan? Apart from pagpataw ng ridiculously high tariffs sa lahat ng mga produkto na pumapasok sa US. So, again, it's providing more context and more rationale as to paano at bakit ba dinadrive ni Trump itong klaseng agenda nito. And again, kung titignan nyo, yung 20 trillion na yan, imbes na mapunta yan sa gobyerno, mapupunta yan sa mga bulsa ng tao sa US. Kung isasuma total mo yan, yung magbe-benefit niyan, majority, would be the top 1% ng bansa. Tuloy natin ng video.
This is significant revenues, but it's nowhere near enough for the whole wish list of things that Trump has pledged to do with it.
So where does this leave us? A bit where we started, actually, because none of this is real until Trump makes it real. We haven't even talked about the complete renegotiation of free trade in North America. The biggest deal Trump signed in his first term that he now also seems unhappy with.
Canada's been very energy. They don't allow our farm products in, essentially. They don't allow a lot of everything to come in.
But no matter what Trump might do next, we can speak to what Trump has already done. And that is to reshape America's closest alliances, to make clear to countries like Canada and Mexico that they should take American priorities seriously, or else risk serious economic harm, a hit to the relationship that the U.S. can tolerate far longer than they can.
There you have it. Hopefully this vlog nakapagbigay ng insight sa inyo with regards to ano ba talagang umaandar sa isip ng isang Donald Trump. Ano ba yung mga rationale, ano ba yung nagdadrive sa kanya to implement and make this big changes that affects everyone in the world. I'm not an expert. This is just yung insights natin. Again, pinoproseso lang natin yung mga information na nakikita natin sa news, sa internet, and so on and so forth. And we are just trying to give and provide our opinion with regards sa topic na to. Hopefully, sana meron kayong nakuhang impormasyon na pwede nyo kapulutan ng aral. At kung hindi pa kayo subscriber ng ating munting channel, please subscribe and click that notification bell para lagi kayong updated sa mga latest videos natin. Again, maraming salamat at magkita-kita tayo ulit sa susunod na vlog. Paalam!
City of mine, how I love the city of mine. It never gets me down.